All right, and welcome back to the Movie Pope. Ugh. All right, and welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we have another great guest. We have Arutyunyan, who is a filmmaker out of California, and he's going to talk to us about his life, his work, and his most latest film project. But before we dive in, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and please share this video and others like it with your friends, family, and foes because we are looking to grow our audience and we do appreciate any attention that we can get. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. And let's go ahead and dive in. Art, how are you doing today? How's your week been so far?
Doing great. Staying busy. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for actually taking the time to be on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk about this. I think it was like in August or September. You sent me an email and I was and I was trying to find a good spot to have you come onto the podcast because you said that at that time I think it was like late August. You said that you had a movie coming out in September, correct?
Yes, yes. It did come out late September, so it is out now. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we're a little bit behind the curve, but we're playing catch up here. Are you excited about next week with the whole Thanksgiving holiday and everything? You got anything planned for that day?
Yes, it's gonna be mellow, just some family stuff. Nothing
Gotcha, gotcha.
nothing extravagant.
Just the usual turkey and sitting around just listening to people complain, right?
That's right. That's right.
that
Complain about my
that's the
career.
yeah, that's the American way of celebrating any holiday, really.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to go ahead and dive in. Art, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are, your life, where you came from, and how you got started in filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Uzbekistan, which is in Central Asia, and I grew up during Soviet Union. And in the late 90s, I moved to LA, where I studied fashion design, and I worked as a fashion designer for about 18 years while writing short stories on the side. And until a friend of mine kind of suggested I write a short script for his directorial debut. He wanted to direct a short film.
Hmm.
And I wrote the short script. He liked it, he directed it. And that's kind of my journey began in the film industry. And gradually I transitioned full time to be a filmmaker. So now I write and direct and produce as well. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So did you like study writing or literature or anything like that? Before getting started.
No, I mean, I just found stuff online and a friend gave me some books. I mean, I didn't take classes per se, but just self-taught, I guess. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you say you started off in fashion. What were you doing prior to jumping to film? Were you working as a photographer? Because I know a lot of filmmakers, a lot of them start off doing photography and they kind of transition from the still image to the moving image. Did you do anything like that, or was it something completely different?
No, I kind of took a Tom Ford route. I was a actual designer. I was designing, sketching women's clothing.
Oh wow.
Yes, so that was my that's my degree. That's my kind of a foray into the creative, field, so to speak. Although I must say, the this area of fashion where I worked was less creative, more like a product design, right? So
Okay.
yeah, so I worked with people like Target and Macy's, like a kind of casual everyday clothing. So it wasn't high fashion or anything like that, but it was, like everyday clothing, and that's what I was designing for 18, 19 years.
And this was back during the like 90s and early 2000s, right?
Yeah, I started late 90s. I went to FITM, graduated from FITM, started working as an assistant, and then gradually, started moved up and became a designer. And yep.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha. So, and that's the thing because I remember like the '90s and early 2000s was like a huge time for fashion because that's when not only was that a period where a lot of models made their names, but that was also where a lot of fashion designers made their mark. Um,
yeah,
I remember as a kid, like my mom would watch CNN and in all their shows, and it was just nothing but like people talking about, oh yeah, this is the latest that came from Jean Paul Gaultier, or this is the latest that
yeah,
came from, Karl Lagerfeld. So, so I imagine even if you're working not haute couture, but you're still working within the fashion, sphere, it was a pretty exciting time. I
yeah.
mean I mean, what was it ab I mean, what was it about film that just made you decide, "You know what? I've been in fashion long enough. I think I'm gonna go ahead and, just drop this and just go straight into making movies."
First of all, commend you for dropping all those names. Not a lot of people, not a lot of people know designers.
I have a lot of time on my hands, so
Very impressive. Yeah, I mean, I've always loved film since I was a kid, and I always have always felt really moved by a good film and a good series. I just never thought of it as a career in a way. I was like, I thought there's some magical people sitting somewhere in Hollywood and making these things. But living in LA, I kind of got a got a taste of it a little bit, and surrounded by actors and filmmakers. I'm like, oh, this is just regular people making stuff, and yeah, that's what it was. But I've always loved film, so I guess that never went away. And I've always loved storytelling. I've always
Mhm.
written short stories. I've always make stuff up to tell my friends what happened during summer, and it's always been embellished and dramatized, and so I've always
Yeah.
had that in me, I guess. And yeah.
So, so you write your first screenplay and you give it to your friend to direct, and then you decide, you know what, maybe this isn't such a bad thing after all. Maybe I'll have a go at it. Where can you talk me through like what happened after that? Like, what were the steps or what were the moves that you made to kind of transition from writing your first screenplay to directing your first film?
Absolutely. So after that short film, we formed a company together. There was a small production company under which we started producing short films, and that's when I started directing. I directed my first short film, which ended up being on the Film Fund's auteur collection. Out of all places, they reached out to me and they really liked it. They wanted to include it in that collection. Yeah, so I guess I directed my first short film a couple of years after I wrote that first short script, and I really liked the process of it. Writing, directing, it's its own animal in a way. It's this like thing that you just kind of create out of nothing in a way.
Hmm.
Um, and directing your own script, it's also super exciting. It's like taking, first of all, distancing yourself from your own, you're being a writer, and now I'm a director directing this thing that I wrote, but it taking it and reinterpreting again in a way, as you're directing it, and working with people, working with kind of camera crew and actors, and that collaborative, that collaboration, that process really, really intrigues me. Yeah.
So, so obviously you've never done this before, so there must have been like a huge learning curve when you were starting off. Can you talk about what was it like directing that first like I mean I don't know if I should call it a short or a film. Like what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was a short film. It's about, I don't know, 12 minutes or so. It's about a trans person that's transitioning, from a man to a woman. Um, so yeah, you said it right. Yeah, it was it was a learning curve for sure. I wasn't I didn't know how to communicate with the director of photography. I didn't necessarily know how to communicate with the actors. So I just went for it and I just did it the way I could. Um, my main thing was, okay, you idiot, you don't know how to do this, so just be respectful.
Right.
Be respectful. Listen if they say to you that this is not how it goes. Be receptive. Be polite. Be nice, and just listen if somebody tells you. And yeah, and the cinematographer that I had on that short film, she did a couple of times told me, this is she was very mild because I did confess, this is my first directing job.
Right.
And she was very, very gently kind of nudging me and telling me, no, no, this is not how we do it. No, this is, the lunch break is not 2 hours, it's half an hour. Half an hour. I was like, oh, people want to take long lunch. I should let them. And she's like, no, we have to go back, otherwise we're not gonna finish. So
Right.
things like that. I mean, yes, absolutely. And then with every following film that I did, I learned more and more and more, and that's the key. You get hopefully get better with each film.
Yeah, because I used to work at my college TV station back in you know back when I was in university, and
Yeah.
I remember someone telling me, the really really good directors, they surround themselves with people who are smarter than themselves.
Mhm.
Was that something that you learned or followed on your end?
That's a really good advice. But it takes but it takes someone who knows. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know anything. So anyone who would come and kind of showed me that they had some work done and I liked their work already were smarter than me at that point.
Right.
And I kind of just let them. But I also, in the process, learned to kind of say, this is not what I want, and kind of suggest what I want, and yeah, you're absolutely right. It's great to have people around you who know better, but also it's very important to have people that are kind of kind and gentle as well. Not trying to force their own vision into it,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, it's a director's vision. Yeah, it's highly collaborative process, but yeah, but I do appreciate people that know more than me in their area of expertise, but also are kind of open and to my ideas as well.
Right, right. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's calling the shots.
Yeah, and that's especially directing is such in a lot of cases it's very instinctive. You have this instinct that this character should be moving their hand like this, for example. For some, like you like it's emotional in this moment, and it kind of serves the scene now, and I want him to move it that way. But sometimes the actors say, I just feel like this doesn't work. And then you kind of compromise and you say, well, let's do one take with the arm going like just an example, and then
Right.
we'll do a few takes without, with you not doing it, and then as you're cutting, as you're editing, you kind of see which one works better, and sometimes they're right, sometimes I'm right. It's all about trying things and following your instincts.
Right.
True.
Because it's also about compromise too, as I've learned from talking to other filmmakers in the process. Have you ever had to deal with producers when it came to the filmmaking process? Did you ever have to, I guess, for lack of a better word, kind of fight with them about what you feel is the best vision as opposed to what they think is the best vision for the project?
Absolutely, yes. It's been pretty mild so far, but I've had a few moments where um, I got again a very mild argument with the producer that this shot just doesn't work. It doesn't uh, contribute to the film. It doesn't add any visual interest to it. Um, yeah, it's so again, it has to be. I was lucky it's been mild, and I kind of won in the end. One of the films, I cut two films out, two scenes out completely,
Hmm.
and the producer was like, "What happened to those two scenes? We spent a day on this scene, a day on that scene, and something came over it, and all I said was, "Listen, it's poetry." The guts I had, and I don't know, it worked. And he's like, "Okay, fine."
It- yeah, because at the end of the day, producers are they're the money men. Really,
Yeah,
they're not really the the visionaries. They're not the ones who are in charge of all of that stuff. You are. Uh,
absolutely, yeah.
so so another thing I want to ask you too, because coming from the fashion industry, obviously that's that it's a fast paced environment, and you're having to work with all sorts of characters. Not to mention sometimes you kind of have to deal with people around you. Were there any lessons or skill sets that you learned from working in fashion that translated over to filmmaking?
Absolutely, there's yeah. I'm grateful for that experience because it was creative, but it was also very corporate. Like you said, it was very fast paced. So I'm used to working in the fast paced environment, and I'm used to delivering on time, and I'm used to working with people around me, talking and having their opinions as well. Um, but I guess the biggest thing is being diplomatic. You know, me saying it's poetry, man. It probably wasn't the most the most diplomatic thing to say to a producer, but it worked. And if he had pushed further, I probably would have given up. Because at the end of the day, as you said, it's all about compromising. But yeah, being diplomatic, as you said, in the fashion industry, like in the film industry, there's a lot of characters, a lot of creative people, and everyone thinks differently. Everyone has their own opinion. But being diplomatic while not completely sacrificing your original vision, that's the kind of tightrope that we're walking.
Gotcha, and
Mm.
that's true in any aspect of the arts, not just fashion or film.
Mm. Absolutely, yeah.
So, so you direct your first short film. What happens after that? What are the projects like? Going forward.
Yeah, so my producing partner then wrote a feature script, and he's like, "I want you to direct it." I came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Hell yeah!" And I did. I directed it, and I loved every minute of it. And I was learning, camera movements and how to talk to actors. Kind of getting rid of that fear. Um, yeah, so in a way, I was lucky that that person was around, and he kind of said, "Now direct this feature film," Um, and then he liked how we worked together. He was producing and I was directing. And then there was another film that we did together. Then I went away and did film on my own as well. Mind you, I was working in fashion then, so I had some cash in my pockets to spend
Gotcha.
on on
Oh,
film. So that,
okay. So essentially, you were working two jobs. You were working, you were
yeah.
still working in fashion, but you're also doing the film thing also, right?
Yeah, working full time, traveling to China 4 times a year. So that takes away some of your energy and time for the fashion job, and then on weekends, on during holidays, shooting those films. Yeah.
So what was that first feature film like? What was the story behind it?
So it's called Alpha Delta Zayton. It's a horror film, and because we had a production company, my business partner then he said, horror is what we need to do right now because it's selling really well. You need to advertise it too much to sell. It comes with its own audience, and he wrote a script that had specific things in it that catered to that audience.
Hmm.
Um, so I kind of read the script and I worked on it and I developed. We developed it together, the aesthetic of it, and that was important for us to nail. kind of like that Suspiria colors, the red and the purple. So we bought like these light bulbs that were colored, and
Oh
um,
yeah, oh yeah. With the whole Dario Argento kind of
yeah,
vibe to it. Okay.
yeah. He actually, my friend introduced me to that whole to that film first of all. Which, by the way, I liked the remake as well by Luca Guadagnino. That was incredible as well.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things about it. But
Yeah.
but for me, I'm a purist. I love the original from the
Mm,
70s just because there's something that's more raw and visceral to it than than remakes. Because most of the time, whenever you see remakes, usually they try to overdo it because they're trying to overcompensate
mm,
for something.
mm.
Um,
Well, this
but
one,
sorry.
well, this one is completely different aesthetic. Luca kind of found his own language there. It's very different. The, s- the story is kind of the same, but visually it's very different, and yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyways, the horror is where I started directing the features because we thought that's what we need to be doing right now to kind of make profit for the company,
Mhm.
and then I did another horror film on my own as well for the company. So yeah, so we kind of thought about fitting into the market um, for a little bit. Yeah.
And when is this, by the way? What year is that?
2017, 2018. Yeah.
And I'm assuming by that time you're no longer working in fashion, right?
Yeah, right about that time, I'm like, okay, I'm directing features now. You know, I need to like focus full time on this, and then I kind of felt the focus shifting. I was like less interested in fashion and more interested in film, and I thought, really need to do it full time if I want to get better at it. And that's what it was. It was kind of like a cold turkey.
You quit fashion right then and there.
Yes, on Friday, goodbye fashion. On Monday, hello film.
But I mean, by that point, you'd already gotten enough experience, so I imagine it was like a pretty easy transition for you, you know.
Yeah, in a way, I kind of knew what things I should be doing if I'm directing a film, especially if it's written by someone else. So I knew kind of the steps, and I'm also learning the production process as well, how it works, how hiring the crew works, how working with actors work, and the contracts and all that stuff. So yeah,
So 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 this is a question that I sometimes like to ask my guests. What's the most challenging or what's the most difficult aspect of the filmmaking process for you?
it's
If you had to pick one.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's staying true to what it is that you want to say. Right now, I would have a different answer now than I would had 5 years ago. Right now, my answer would be make a decision what kind of filmmaker I want to be. Do I want to make horror movies that make some money, or do I want to really do stuff that the films that I want to watch myself? It's kind of making that decision and going with it. That's the
Gotcha.
the most difficult because you're torn. You want to make movies that kind of have a touch audience already. It's easy sell in a way, although nothing is easy sell, but or make more complicated, more personal stuff that you're really passionate about and hope for the for the best. It's a very kind of conflicting, difficult decision to make.
Right. But then when you do make this decision, it's like, wow, this is like the best decision I ever made in my life, you know?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree.
So this leads me into to the film that you were telling me about, the one that was released a few months ago. Um it was called The Things We Leave Behind. Can you talk to me about that movie? What was the impetus for that to begin with?
Yeah, pieces we leave behind.
Oh,
So
Pieces We Leave Behind. Okay.
yeah. So at that time, I started kind of branching out and meeting other writers to collaborate with. If sometimes I hired writers to work on my script together to collaborate, or sometimes I just found writers that had interesting script, but it needed some work, and I would say, "Hey, you want to fix it together?" Again, like the sheer guts that come to say something to someone like that. But yeah, so I met this writer, actor slash writer, who had this script, and we worked on it together. And then a few months later, he came back and said, "Hey, I have some money, and I want to do this film that I wrote, different script, and I need a director. I cannot pay you, but you can direct it." I was like, okay. And then I read the script. I read the script, and I liked, where it was going, um, and that's what it was. And I just felt that, it wasn't the horror. It was straightforward drama, and that's what I wanted to do. And I also saw, a visual potential. Like, I could see, oh, he's going to all these different places. We could really do, some nature shots, and some, be creative with the visual language of the film. Um, yeah, and then he brought a DP on board, that I worked with together as well, and he was also open to a lot of ideas. And I felt like we accomplished some of the my visual language into the film, which I'm happy about.
Now, now, was this a script that you sort of collaborated working on, or was it entirely written by this actor writer person?
Yeah, yeah. No, it was a completely different script that he wrote on his own. Well, obviously, as a director, we made some minor changes, but it was, the script, it kind of stayed almost the same. Yeah, he
Gotcha,
wrote it. He wrote it. Yeah.
gotcha. Because we were chatting before we started recording, and basic and correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, it's about a man who is going through grief because he lost his wife, and he's making all these trips to all the spots that she wanted to go to, and he's leaving behind pieces of her jewelry. Um, that's that's a pretty moving story. Was this? Were they writing from personal experience, or were they just just tapping into something deep inside of them? Do you know?
You know what? I never dared to ask. It crossed my mind, and obviously curiosity is my biggest downfall sometimes. The curiosity was was there, but I was like, I don't know if I want to ask. It's such a personal thing, and so I don't know. As close as we are, I still don't don't know. Um,
Because the
yeah.
way that you describe it, like I mean, in my mind, I'm just thinking, I mean, either this happened to this person or they knew someone very, very close to whom it happened to. Like it, it just sounds so real you know, to not have been fictional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, so can you walk me through the process of what it was like, to film this project? Because you started filming this at a very, very inconvenient time in
Mm,
history.
yeah. Yeah. We all wore masks in the car, four of us driving around. Um, yeah, we had to be real careful, especially interior shots. Everyone had to wear masks between the takes. Everyone was scared shitless, like what if we get sick and stuff.
Right.
It was challenging, but I was lucky because everyone kind of came on board. Even actors that came for half a day for a couple of lines. Everyone was really excited, and part of it is because every sequence was in a different location. We were in Joshua Tree, and Lake Gregory, and then Malibu Beach. Like we went to different places, so everyone was excited, and that kind of helped me, keep going. Um, yeah.
So did the pandemic and the social distancing rules, did they kind of inform the filmmaking process at all? Like, so in other words, did it mean you had to do less interior shots and more exterior shots?
Um, well, no, some of the scenes, they're in the house arguing, it had to be inside the house. But we just had to be careful. common sense, you know. Um, yeah. So yeah, just try to be mindful.
Gotcha, gotcha. Because and I think you said that it took you 2 years to complete. Was that correct? Or so,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The sound design and editing took some time, and you can't really rush those things, you know, especially with editing sound and editing picture. You need to go, you know, at a pace that works, you know, and without rushing.
so so what happens after that? You know everything's in the can, everything's good to go. Do you release this in film festival circuits, or do you like send it to distribution? What happens after that?
Yeah, so the producer and I we kind of decided, you know, just go to distribution directly, and he started working on it. He started sending it out to distribution companies until we finally got a distribution agreement, and that was, yeah, that was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But
Can
we did
you
it, yeah.
oh no, oh sorry. So I was going to ask. So can you because I haven't had a guest yet who spoke about the distribution process. Can you
Mhm.
maybe walk me through what is it like to get your film project into distribution? What goes into that?
Yeah, so you have the film, like you said, in the can, and everything is ready. And because I had a production company before, I kind of knew that we will need a trailer, you know, deliverables. We need a trailer, we need some sort of poster, we need some stills. So I knew that much, and closed captioning as well, you know, for different platforms. So I knew that much. And then as he was looking for distributors and he kind of landed on one that he liked, they sent us a list, giant document that's listing what they need and what format. They need film in MP4, for example, and they need
Mhm.
a trailer in MP4 format. Then they need closed captions. They need posters of this size. So they gave us exact list of what it is that they wanted from us. There's many more things on that list. I can't remember, you know, anymore. But yeah, that took us a while to prepare because there were some things on that that I've never prepared before, and you know, producer and I we kind of just deviated, you know, divided our responsibilities. Okay, you do these things on the list, and I'll do these things on the list. It took us some time to get all that together, and some people probably would be like at that process, this is not what I signed up for. But you know, we wanted to be respectful of the distribution company and give them exactly what they needed to do the work. Um, yeah.
So is it a tedious process?
It's
Um,
very, yeah, it's very tedious. There is such document. I can't remember what it's called, where you have to basically time every line that's said in the script. Can you imagine typing the document that says, and then minute second this he says this? I mean, it's very tedious, yeah. And then also identifying on which time code there is a score, where it starts, where it finishes, and what it's called. It's kind of like being data entry thing, you know, where you're like, I'm an artiste. I don't want to make lists, but yeah, they needed that for the platforms.
wait. So were you doing that personally, or was this someone else doing that?
So some of them I did personally, and some of them the producer did.
Oh, good lord!
Yep. So, yep.
Because
Yeah.
because I've got this image in my mind of you just sitting there, just going through the movie, just over and over again, and I'm imagining by the time you're done, you're like, you could like recite the entire movie by heart because you've had to listen to it so many times.
Yeah, and also I edited it myself. So yeah, I have in fact has have seen the movie at least hundreds of times.
Right. So when so
Yeah.
when it comes to distribution, because I've been meaning to ask this. When it comes to
Hmm.
distribution, I mean, do you just like open the phone book and that's dated reference, but I'm still going with it. Do you open the phone book and just like reach out to each one, or is there like a default distributor that you kind of go to, or do you just go by with what people recommend? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so I wasn't involved in that. I wasn't involved in finding the distributor. The producer did it on his own.
Okay.
But I know that he approached a few, and it's literally Googling stuff. When I had a production company with my partner, um, yeah, we went to AFM once. Met some people there and some distributors that kind of looked for horror movies, let's say. But usually you just do a research. You find a movie that you like that's kind of comparable to yours, and you see who distributed it. And kind of
Okay.
and you reached out and you say, hey, you distributed this film, you might like ours. And they'll be like, sure, send it to us. You send it to them and they say yes or no, but luckily they often say yes and no.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I'm not talking about A24 or Blumhouse or whatever. I'm talking about that level of independent film. And
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, wow. So really, it's kind of like going through the phone book and just like reaching out to these distributors, really.
I mean, you gotta be bold, you gotta believe in your film and say, hey, this will work for you. You're not gonna say, this is the best thing you've ever seen, because that's just cocky and
Because they've heard it
impolite.
before. Yeah.
Yes, and impolite. Um, but you gotta believe enough in it to say, this might be a good fit for you. Do you want to see it? The same with the way I do outreach with my scripts and my TV pilots, for example. Same thing. When I email people, I say, you know you, it could be a good fit for you you know
So in terms of the filmmaking process, do you? I mean, these days, do you find yourself gravitating more to writing or to directing, or do you have a
well,
preference for one or the other?
um I kind of like both equally. um but writing doesn't cost anything. It's, you have a program and you just write. You know but directing, you need money for that, so that's a little tricky. When there is money, I can direct. When there is no money, I'm writing.
So you always find a way to keep yourself busy, then, right?
Oh yeah, I treat it as a full-time job. And mostly because, I come from the fashion industry where I had a full-time job. So I'm used to that. I'm used to working from morning to evening. And writing a lot of times is just sitting and thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so um so that movie, The Pieces We Leave Behind, where is it right now in terms of distribution?
So right now it's on Amazon Prime and on DirecTV, and they're gonna send us a list of other platforms that they're trying to get it on.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
gotcha.
So
Do you so it's mainly gonna be on streaming, that's not gonna have any, theater releases or anything?
yeah, it's gonna be only on streaming. Yes.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. So what's next for you?
So I'm developing a lot of TV series now, and by developing, I mean, writing a pilot and rewriting until it's good, and creating a pitch deck, series Bible, so to speak. And I'm out doing active outreach to producers. Right now, I'm also writing a script for another director. It's kind of like a writing assignment, that's paid writing assignment. I pick
Mhm.
up those as well, you know, when I can. So yeah, so it's right now a lot of projects are in the pitching stages for me, and I do a lot of meetings and networking events, and always looking for producers to partner up with. It's very rare, I must say. As surprising as it sounds, it's very rare to find a producer that wants to just take over the project and try to make it happen. Most producers come on board when there's money already. So yeah, it's kind of tricky, but I'm meeting some great people. So
Got
hopefully, yeah. So hopefully something moves forward.
Gotcha, gotcha. So so real quickly, because because I've never had a guest who's done that before. Can you
Mm.
can you talk about what the pitch process looks like in trying to get a series or a project off the ground?
Yeah, so I guess the basics, right? I mean, if you have a feature script, try submitting it to festival so you can, if it places somewhere, you can add it to your pitch deck, and then you have a script, and then you create some sort of a pitch deck. And for me, because I'm a writer director, the visual representation of the story of the script is very important to me. So I do create the pitch decks myself, and it usually consists of um, the log line, the title, the log line, and then the short synopsis of the feature script, and then main characters, supporting characters, how you see them, and then a little bit of visual, like how do you see how do you imagine the look of the film, um, and what are some movies that are similar, and if you can include what the budget is and what the plan is for production and post production and distribution. Like we were talking about, pieces took 2 years to make. So what are you proposing with this new film that you're pitching, script that you're pitching? How long will it take you as a director to prepare, to shoot the film, and then to edit the film? And when is it going to be ready for distribution? So you include all of that, and that's kind of like my pitch package, I guess, for a feature film.
Mhm.
Um, and I just write cold emails, man. Hey, I'm so and so, and I have script that placed at some festival, for example. I'm reaching out with this film, and here's the deck if you want a pitch deck and a link if you'd like to see the script. I would love to talk further. That's it. I mean, and I was on this webinar the other day, and the producer, sorry, said that the average percentage of people that respond to cold emails is 2%. So you have to email 100 people to get two of them to respond on average. So
Right.
it's a numbers game in a way, and I have been kind of successful. With that, with outreach, I was able to option a TV series with Howard Kazanjian. Howard Kazanjian was a vice president of Lucasfilm at some point, and he was a producer of the second Star Wars film and
Was this the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy?
the original trilogy.
So Empire
Yeah.
Strikes Back then. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he also produced one of the Indiana Jones films. So out of out of hundreds of people, he's the one who responded to my cold email, and we just kept talking, kept exchanging pitch decks and scripts and whatnot. And yeah, I was able to option. He optioned one of my TV series that we're hoping will move forward. So it works. Cold emailing works.
Gotcha. Can
Yeah.
you are you allowed to tell us a little bit about the project you're pitching at the moment?
Um, all I can say is because I'm an Armenian, the lead character is an American Armenian. So it's
Okay.
it's about an American Armenian family.
Okay. Gotcha. And hopefully, hopefully it'll get picked up and put into production pretty soon.
I really hope so. Yes.
Do you know if it's gonna if it's gonna be with like a major studio or if it's gonna be kind of indie? Do you, can you say anything like that?
Well, it's a TV series, and it's not one of those two people sitting in a room talking. It has more to it. I think it's going to require at least a somewhat of a studio to make it. So it's not going to be, financed out of pockets. It has to be a studio kind of project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, when that happens, definitely let me know because I would love to bring you back on to chat about that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to be back.
I'm really excited now that you mentioned it. So I want to go ahead and wrap it all up. But before we do, if people are interested in reaching out to you, or if they want to learn more about your work or see the stuff that you've done, where can they go?
Well, my email is listed on IMDb Pro, and I also have a website, arutyunyan.com, and my contact is there as well. Yeah, I'm very much open to people that reach out. Believe me, I read people's scripts left and right. People send me stuff all the time. So, I really love reading other people's work and seeing what they're working on and trying to help collaborate. I love that stuff. So yeah,
Really, people actually send you their scripts on a daily basis.
not on a daily basis, thank God, but but people do send me scripts. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And are these people who know you pretty well, or they just found your information and they just decide to email you?
Just found my information and email me, and I read everything. I'm one of those people. I read everything. I obviously, I read a few. I start reading if it's just not going anywhere or I'm not connecting to it. Nothing I can do about it. But
Yeah,
I would honestly say, it's just, nothing I can do about it. But if it's
yeah,
something that I really love, I always, I'm upfront and honest and say, I'm kind of a nobody as well, but let me keep it on my plate, and I can, when I'm pitching something, I can bring this up as well. But it depends on what the writer or filmmaker, what do they want, what are their goals
hmm,
with the script. Sometimes people just send stuff to me. Hey, do you think you can read it and give me your opinion? That's great as well, and I like doing that as well.
yeah, absolutely. So you're like a huge resource for people who are trying to get into the industry, then, right?
You know what? I think I'm hoping to be more, as hopefully my hopefully my projects move forward and I, start doing bigger things, hopefully bigger and better things. I will never stop, you know, um, shaking people's hands and kind of trying to help,
Yeah,
because I'm being helped too by others.
yeah. You kind of pay it forward then. Um,
Yeah.
so another thing I want to ask you too, and you mentioned it earlier, is there a particular genre or particular type of movie that you prefer to make? Because I know you said you a lot of the movies that you made before were horror, but they were more for for generating profit.
Yeah.
Um, is there like a particular genre or type of movie s- that 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 you feel like I could make these kinds of movies for the rest of my life and I would be happy as a clam.
Yeah, drama I think is my thing, family drama, and also kind of a hybrid of genres as well. That you think it's one thing, but it's something else. Yeah, but dramas, some crime in it, or thriller elements. Um, yeah, dramas.
Gotcha, gotcha. So before we wrap this up, I like to ask this of all my guests. Is there a movie or TV show that you really love that you would recommend for people to watch?
Oh my God, I just watched Blackberry. It's a mini series. It's only 3 episodes. It's incredible. I was on the edge of my seat throughout the 3 episodes. It's pretty cool. The pacing is really fast, and the acting is great, and the kind of mockumentary cinematography style I really like in this particular series. Highly recommend.
Okay. And you said it was a mini series. Was that
Yeah,
right?
it's mini series. It's only 3 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before. When did that come out?
I think it came out like 2 weeks ago or something. It's fairly new.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's probably
Yeah,
why.
but it's about the guys that invented BlackBerry, that phone, and yeah.
Oh, Oh, I really like those movies. Because
Yeah,
I mean, because you and I both grew up grew up in a time where where these new items of technology were coming out and they were all the rage.
yep,
Um, so wow, I definitely gotta check that out now.
yep.
Um, but Art, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come onto the podcast, and I really want to bring you back on for future episodes. Um, so yeah, I mean, just let me know how things are going with the pitch, and like I said, I mean, I would definitely love to bring you back on because I feel like you're a huge well of knowledge that I can just draw from and just keep asking you. Um,
Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody who's watching for taking the time to watch these videos. And remember to like, comment, subscribe. Please share these videos with everyone you know. And as always, thank you so much for watching and take it easy. Bye. All right.